Welcome to Calm Before Dreams. A quiet place where gentle stories unfold like soft candlelight in a still room. Tonight, I find myself stepping into a world of hushed ballrooms, evening gardens, and unspoken feelings. A world where love does not rush, but lingers quietly between glances. Where even the smallest moment seems to stretch, as if time itself has learned to breathe more slowly. I do not yet know how this story will change me. Only that it begins in stillness. In the soft glow of chandeliers, in the distant echo of music, in the quiet awareness of another presence nearby. On a quiet evening in Victorian London, a soft fog curled between the lamps of Willow Lane. In a small brick townhouse, young Clara Finch closed her book and listened to the distant clip-clop of carriage wheels fading into the night. Before bed, she liked to take one last look outside. When she pulled aside the lace curtain, she noticed something unusual. A single lantern glowing warm and steady at the end of the lane, though no lamplighter had passed that night. Curious but calm, Clara wrapped herself in her wool shawl and stepped out to sea. The air smelled of coal smoke and lavender from Mrs. Merton's garden across the street. As she walked, the lantern's amber light seemed to pulse gently. Almost like a heartbeat, almost like it was waiting just for her. When Clara reached it, the lantern suddenly brightened, revealing a small brass plaque on its post. She wiped away the mist and read the words, "For travelers who wander in dreams." A peaceful warmth washed over her. The lantern's glow softened into a golden haze, and for a moment, Clara felt as if she stood between waking and dreaming. A quiet place where nothing hurried and nothing troubled. Then, just as gently as it had appeared, the lantern dimmed back to its ordinary glow. Clara smiled, understanding that some mysteries were meant only to soothe, not to solve. She returned home, climbed into her feather-soft bed, and fell asleep almost instantly. And as she drifted off, she imagined a whole lane of lanterns just like that one, guiding dreamers safely into the night. In the late Victorian era, when manners were as tightly laced as the corsets people wore, Rosehill Manor stood on a hill above the town, glowing with candlelight each evening. Its owners, the Harland family, were known for their elegant balls, where violins hummed through the night and young ladies practiced perfect curtsies learned from childhood. Evelyn Harland had grown up under strict rules. Every morning began with posture lessons, piano practice, and long lectures about duty and discipline. Her governess believed that love came only after one proved themselves proper enough, a belief shared by many in those days. Children were expected to be silent at meals, to never question elders, and to always appear composed even when their hearts were loud. Yet tonight, as Rosehill prepared for its grand winter ball, Evelyn felt something different fluttering inside her. She had watched her parents' world of polished silver and rigid expectations for years, but she quietly dreamed of something gentler, love that warmed instead of commanded. When the guests arrived, the ballroom shimmered. Silk gowns, dark suits, white gloves, the soft scent of roses tucked into golden vases. Everyone danced with perfect form, careful not to step outside the invisible lines society had drawn. Then Evelyn noticed a young man standing near the orchestra. A guest from America, newly arrived, with kind eyes and a shy smile. He looked slightly lost among the rules and rituals of British high society. When their eyes met, he gave a small, unsure nod, nothing like the practiced bows she saw every day. It felt honest. When the next waltz began, he approached her, hesitating just enough to show respect rather than entitlement. "Miss Harland," he said softly, "would you grant me this dance?" "If it pleases you." No one had ever asked her like that. Not as an expectation but as a choice. As they stepped onto the floor, the chandeliers dimmed to a warm glow, and the music softened. They moved carefully at first, surrounded by people who watched every gesture. Yet with each turn, Evelyn felt the rigid world around her loosen, just a little. The harshness of strict upbringing, the weight of old customs, all softened under the tender rhythm of the waltz. For a moment, she imagined a future where love was gentle, where rules bent to kindness, and where two people could meet as equals, not as actors in a ballroom performance. When the dance ended, the young man bowed again. A simple, heartfelt gesture. "Thank you," he whispered. Evelyn smiled, feeling a small spark of hope she wasn't supposed to feel, but did anyway. That night, as she finally drifted to sleep in her quiet room, she realized something about her era. Even in a world of strict manners and cold expectations, moments of true kindness still found their way in. Like soft candlelight shining through heavy velvet curtains. And sometimes all it took was one gentle waltz to remind a heart that it was free to dream. Morning light crept through the heavy velvet curtains of Evelyn Harland's room, painting soft gold stripes on her quilt. Rosehill Manor was quiet, yet filled with the unspoken rules that guided every hour of the day. Even the dust motes seemed to float politely. Her maid, Alice, entered silently, just as she had been trained from childhood. Never to speak unless spoken to, never to disturb, never to show emotion. Victorian order demanded it. "Good morning, Miss Harland," she said gently. Evelyn sat up, replaying the memory of the American gentleman's kind smile from the night before. It felt like a warm secret hidden beneath all the expectations she carried. Downstairs, breakfast was a ceremony of silence. Her father read the newspaper with stern brows. Her mother corrected her posture every few minutes. "A lady must never slouch," she repeated, as if the rule were part of Evelyn's very inheritance. In that era, children were raised with severity, often taught that affection made them weak. Love was something to earn, not something freely given. But Evelyn's heart had always rebelled quietly. That afternoon, she walked in the winter garden, one of the few freedoms allowed to her. The hedges were trimmed as precisely as her upbringing, yet the cold air felt honest, and the distant church bells softened the sharpness of the day. Near the old iron gate, she saw him again. The American. He tipped his hat with a modest smile. "Miss Harland. Forgive me, I didn't mean to intrude. I was told the gardens were open for guests." "Then you are not intruding," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. He introduced himself properly this time. "Samuel Whitmore. My family has some business with your father." His tone carried none of the arrogance many gentlemen wore like a badge. Instead, he seemed slightly unsure of the rigid English customs that governed every gesture. They walked slowly along the gravel path. Evelyn knew she shouldn't. Unaccompanied walks with a man were frowned upon, but something in Samuel's presence felt safe. Kindness was rare currency in her world. He noticed the stiff way she held her hands. "Is everything here so formal?" he asked with a soft laugh. She hesitated, then nodded. "We're raised to be perfect. Or at least perfect in appearance." Samuel's expression dimmed with understanding. "In America, we're taught to stand tall, but also to breathe." "I hope you get to breathe, Miss Harland." His words settled gently on her heart, like snowflakes that didn't melt. Before she could reply, a sharp voice cut through the garden. "Evelyn." It was her mother. Her tone wasn't loud, but it was enough to freeze the air. Victorian mothers could silence a room with a single tightened jaw. Evelyn stepped back from Samuel instinctively. "Come inside at once," her mother ordered. "This is hardly proper." Samuel bowed politely. "Mrs. Harland, my apologies. I meant no disrespect." But the disapproval in her mother's eyes was unmistakable. To her, society's rules mattered more than the sincerity of a man's heart. Inside the manor, Evelyn was scolded in the way Victorian families believed to be discipline, calm words that cut deeper than shouting. A lady does not wander alone with a stranger. Appearances are everything. Your future depends on it. Evelyn lowered her gaze as she had been taught. Yet as she stood there, quiet and obedient, she felt something quietly awakening in her. A desire for a life defined not only by expectation but by choice. A life where love was not a performance at a ball, but a shared breath in a winter garden. That night, as the manor settled into silence, Evelyn sat by her window, looking at the moonlit path where she had met Samuel. The rules of her world pressed in around her, firm and cold. But her heart whispered of possibilities. And she already knew this story would not end with just one waltz, nor with one forbidden walk among the roses. The following days at Rosehill Manor unfolded with their usual measured rhythm. Lessons, visits, and long, quiet hours filled with expectation. Yet for Evelyn something had shifted. The world felt softer at its edges, as if a gentle warmth had found its way into places that had always been cold. She did not see Samuel at once. And yet she felt his presence in small, unexpected ways. In the way she paused before answering, choosing honesty over perfection. In the way her hands relaxed slightly at her sides instead of holding themselves too carefully still. In the way the garden no longer felt like a place of rules, but of quiet possibility. On the third afternoon, as a pale winter sun rested low in the sky, Evelyn returned to the garden path. Not out of rebellion, but out of a quiet hope she barely allowed herself to name. And there he was. Samuel stood near the same iron gate, his breath faintly visible in the cold air. This time he did not approach immediately. Instead, he gave her a gentle nod, as if asking permission not with words but with patience. Evelyn stepped closer. "I wondered if you might come," he said softly. "I wasn't certain that I should," she replied, though her voice carried no regret. They began to walk again, slower than before. There was no urgency between them, no need to impress or perform. The silence that settled between their words felt natural, like a calm river moving without effort. "I hope I didn't cause you trouble the other day," Samuel said after a while. Evelyn smiled faintly. In this house, even a breeze can be considered trouble. He let out a quiet breath of laughter, warm, unguarded. "I'm still learning your customs," he admitted. "But I think kindness should not be considered improper." Evelyn looked at him, then really looked. His coat was simple compared to the finely tailored men she knew. His manners were respectful, yet untouched by stiffness. There was a sincerity in him that no etiquette book could teach. "My world is built on appearances," she said gently, "but sometimes I think it forgets what truly matters." They stopped beneath a bare tree, its branches stretching into the pale sky like quiet thoughts. Samuel hesitated for a moment, then spoke with careful honesty. "Where I come from, we believe affection should feel easy. Not earned through perfection, but given freely." The words settled between them, soft and steady. Evelyn felt something inside her loosen, something she hadn't known how to name before. Not rebellion, not defiance, but a quiet permission to feel. A breeze passed through the garden, brushing lightly against her cheek. Without thinking, she lifted her hand to steady her bonnet ribbon. Samuel noticed and gently reached out, then paused, giving her time to refuse. She didn't. His fingers moved only briefly, carefully adjusting the ribbon so it wouldn't slip. The touch was light, almost weightless. Yet it carried more meaning than any formal gesture she had ever known. "Thank you," she whispered. Their eyes met for a moment longer than was proper. But neither looked away. As the sun dipped lower, casting a soft golden glow across the garden, Evelyn realized that love, true love, did not arrive with grand declarations or perfect choreography. It arrived quietly. In patience. In respect. In small kindnesses that asked nothing in return. When they parted that afternoon, there were no promises spoken aloud. And yet, something unspoken remained between them, gentle, steady, and real. That night, as Evelyn lay in bed, listening to the distant hush of winter wind against the manor walls, she placed her hand lightly over her heart. For the first time, it did not feel confined. It felt open. And in that quiet openness, she drifted into sleep, held not by rules, but by the soft beginning of something tender and true. The days grew softer after that afternoon, as if winter itself had decided to rest. A thin veil of frost settled each morning over the gardens of Rosehill Manor, turning every branch into something delicate and silver. The world moved more slowly now. Even the house, with all its strict routines, seemed quieter. Evelyn found herself listening more than speaking. Not to voices, but to moments. The faint ticking of the clock in the hallway. The hush of fabric as she passed through long corridors. The distant echo of piano notes drifting from another room. And somewhere within those quiet hours, she began to notice something new. A letter. It appeared one morning on the small table near her window. No seal, no crest, only her name written carefully, as if each letter had been placed with thought rather than habit. Evelyn hesitated before opening it. Inside, the words were simple. Miss Harland, I hope this note finds you in a moment of quiet. I have come to appreciate the stillness of your garden and the way it seems to allow one to simply be. If you happen to walk there again, I will be near the old tree at dusk. Only if it pleases you. S.W. Evelyn read it twice. Then once more. There was no demand in it. No expectation. Only an invitation, gentle, respectful, and entirely hers to accept or decline. That alone made her heart soften. As evening approached, the sky faded into pale shades of blue and lavender. The first lanterns were lit along the path, their glow warm against the growing cold. Evelyn wrapped herself in her cloak and stepped outside. The air was still. Not empty, but calm, like a held breath that did not need to be released. She walked slowly, her footsteps quiet against the frozen ground. Each step felt deliberate, not rushed. As if the moment itself was asking her to move gently within it. The old tree stood where it always had, silent, patient, unchanged. And beneath it, Samuel. He did not move toward her immediately. Instead, he simply stood there, hands loosely at his sides, as though he understood that some meetings should not be hurried. You came, he said quietly. I did, Evelyn answered, her voice soft as the fading light. They did not begin with conversation. They began with stillness. Side by side, they watched as the last traces of daylight slipped behind the horizon. The sky deepened and the lantern nearby flickered to life, casting a soft golden circle around them. I wasn't certain if I should write, Samuel admitted after a while, but I thought, perhaps quiet words are easier than spoken ones. They are, Evelyn said gently. They leave space to breathe. A light wind moved through the branches above them, carrying the faint scent of winter and distant smoke. Evelyn closed her eyes for a moment, letting the stillness settle deeper within her. I've spent much of my life learning how to be seen, she said slowly. How to stand, how to speak, how to appear, as expected. Samuel turned slightly toward her, listening, not to answer but simply to understand. And now? He asked. Evelyn opened her eyes. Now I am learning how to feel. The words lingered between them, warm against the cool evening air. Samuel smiled, softly without surprise. I think that matters more, he said. Another quiet fell between them. But this one was different. It was not empty. It was full. The lantern light flickered gently, brushing against Evelyn's face, catching the softness in her expression. Without thinking, she stepped a little closer. Not enough to break propriety, but enough to share the warmth of that small circle of light. Neither of them spoke of the future. Neither of them named what was growing. They simply stood there in that quiet space between rules and feeling. between what was expected and what was real. And as the night deepened around Rosehill Manor, something delicate and certain began to take shape. Not loudly, not suddenly, but like light through fog, slow, gentle, and impossible to ignore. The evenings grew quieter still. At Rosehill Manor, winter had settled fully, wrapping the world in a soft hush. Snow lay lightly upon the garden paths, smoothing every edge, softening every sound. Even the strict rhythms of the house seemed gentler beneath its quiet weight. Evelyn had begun to wait for dusk. Not with impatience, but with a calm, steady awareness. As if something within her knew that the day would only become real when the light began to fade. Another letter had come. Shorter this time. Miss Harland. The garden feels different in the snow. If you wish to see it, I will be there. That was all. And yet it was enough. That evening, the sky turned pale silver long before night arrived. Snowflakes drifted slowly, each one unhurried, as though the world itself had forgotten the need for time. Evelyn stepped outside, her breath warm against the cold air. The garden was transformed. Familiar paths softened, branches bowed gently under frost, and the old tree standing like a quiet guardian of something unspoken. Samuel was already there. He stood in stillness, watching the snowfall as if he did not wish to disturb it. For a moment, Evelyn simply observed him. There was something peaceful in the way he existed within the space. Without force, without expectation. As though he belonged to the quiet, not to the rules that shaped everything else. You see it too, he said softly without turning. Yes, she replied, stepping beside him. It feels different. They stood together, watching the snow settle over the garden, each flake dissolving into silence. I think, Samuel began slowly, that some moments ask nothing from us. They don't require explanation, or even words. Evelyn felt the truth of it settle gently within her. And yet, she said, there are things that remain, even when unspoken. He turned to her then. Not quickly. Not with urgency. But with care. Snow gathered lightly on the edges of his coat, catching the faint glow of the lantern nearby. His expression was thoughtful, as though he stood at the edge of something he did not wish to rush. There are things, he said quietly, I find myself wanting to say when I am with you. The air between them seemed to still completely. Evelyn did not step back. But she did not move closer either. She simply remained, present, open, and calm. I understand, she whispered. Samuel exhaled softly, as if releasing a breath he had been holding for days. In my world, he continued, people speak more freely. Perhaps too freely at times, but here. I have learned that some feelings are not meant to be spoken all at once. A snowflake landed on Evelyn's glove. She watched it for a moment before it melted into nothing. And what do you believe now? She asked. He hesitated. Then gently. That what I feel when I stand beside you is something I would rather protect than explain. The words were quiet. but they carried warmth deeper than any declaration. Evelyn felt her heart respond, not with sudden intensity, but with a soft, steady certainty. "I think," she began, her voice almost lost in the falling snow, "that I would not want you to rush it." Their eyes met. Not searching. Not questioning. Only understanding. The lantern flickered slightly in the wind, its glow shifting, softening the space around them. For a moment the world felt smaller. Just the two of them, standing within a quiet circle of light, untouched by expectation. Samuel lifted his hand slightly, then paused, giving her time. Evelyn noticed. And instead of stepping away, she allowed the moment to remain. Not yet. But not never. His hand lowered again, gently, without disappointment. And somehow that made the moment even more tender. Because nothing had been taken. Nothing had been forced. Everything remained exactly as it should be, slow, careful, real. "I will walk you back," he said softly. They moved together through the snow, their steps quiet, their presence steady. No promises were spoken. No confessions made. And yet, something had been shared. Something fragile. Something true. That night, as Evelyn lay in her room, the memory of the evening lingered. Not as excitement, but as calm warmth, resting gently within her chest. The words had almost been spoken. But somehow, that made them even more meaningful. And as she drifted into sleep, she carried with her the quiet understanding that some forms of love begin not with certainty, but with care. Night came quietly to Rosehill Manor, carrying with it a stillness deeper than before. Snow no longer fell. The sky had cleared, revealing a pale moon that rested softly above the gardens. Its light stretched across the frozen paths, turning them into silvery ribbons that led gently through the quiet. Inside the manor, voices lingered faintly from distant rooms. Guests, conversation, the familiar sounds of life. But in the garden it was different. There, silence reigned. Evelyn stepped outside later than usual. She hadn't received a letter that day. And yet, she knew. Not with certainty, but with that same quiet feeling that had begun to guide her. Soft, steady, unhurried. The air was colder now, crisp against her skin. Each breath felt clear, as though the night itself was made of something pure. She walked toward the old tree. And there he was. Samuel stood beneath the branches, the moonlight resting along his shoulders, outlining him in pale silver. He did not seem surprised to see her. "I wasn't sure you would come," he said gently. "I wasn't sure either," Evelyn replied. And yet here they were. Closer than before. Not just in distance, but in something quieter, something deeper. For a moment neither spoke. The garden held them in its calm. "I didn't write today," Samuel said after a while. "I thought perhaps some moments should not be invited, only met." Evelyn nodded slowly. "Yes, I think so too." A faint breeze moved through the trees, brushing lightly against her cloak. She reached to hold it closer, but the fabric slipped slightly from her shoulder. Before she could adjust it, Samuel stepped forward. Not suddenly. Not without thought. Just enough. His hand lifted, hesitated for the briefest moment, then gently rested against the edge of her cloak, drawing it back into place. The touch was simple, natural, and yet it lingered. Not because he held on, but because neither of them moved away. His fingers, still lightly against the fabric, brushed just barely against her hand. Warmth. Not sharp. Not overwhelming. But unmistakable. Evelyn felt it immediately, a quiet warmth spreading through her. Soft as candlelight, steady as breath. It was not the kind of touch she had been warned about. Not something improper or rushed. It was kind. Samuel seemed to feel it too. He did not pull away at once. But he did not presume. Instead, he allowed the moment to exist exactly as it was, gentle, unclaimed, real. Evelyn's hand shifted slightly. Not to retreat, but to remain. Their fingers met, barely. Just enough. The world seemed to soften around them as if the night itself had drawn closer, holding the moment in quiet care. The moonlight rested across their hands, pale and calm, as though it had always been meant to fall exactly there. No words came. None were needed. Because in that small, almost weightless touch, everything had already been said. Respect. Trust. Something deeper still unfolding. After a moment, Samuel slowly let his hand fall away. Not breaking the moment, but completing it. Evelyn did not feel the loss. Only the presence of what had been. They stood side by side once more, the space between them no longer distant, but quietly connected. "I think," Samuel said softly, "that some things are meant to begin this way." Evelyn turned her gaze toward the moonlit path ahead. "Yes," she whispered. Not all at once, but gently. They remained there a little longer, not touching again, not needing to. Because something had changed. Not in what they were, but in how close they had allowed themselves to be. And as Evelyn returned to the manor that night, the warmth of that brief, careful touch stayed with her, soft, steady, and deeply real. Like something she would not need to question. Only remember. And slowly, trust. Thank you for staying with me as we wandered through the quiet halls of Rosehill Manor and the gentle stillness of its winter garden. If this story brought you a sense of calm, you're welcome to like and subscribe for more soothing tales to accompany your nights. Sleep deeply, hold on to a quiet sense of tenderness, and let the soft glow of candlelight and the memory of a gentle waltz carry you into peaceful dreams.